Okay, this is going to be an absolutely value-packed video for you. I've got so much cool stuff to share with you here. I hope you're ready to rock because we are doing it big style in this video. Okay, what you're going to see here at the start, at the very beginning, is a section dedicated to beginner guitar technique. So real sort of basic stuff, but you know, really important stuff too. Feel free to skip ahead if that stuff's too basic for you. There'll be some more advanced stuff later in the video. But I wanted to put that really foundational stuff in here at the start. Now what those videos actually are, we actually filmed them a couple of weeks ago. We were going to use them as ads, but we only used them for a couple of days and then we didn't use them. But they're actually really cool videos, so I wanted to include them here because you'll get a lot out of them in quite a short space of time. I tend to ramble a bit on these videos because, you know, I enjoy the topic so much. One of the cool things about recording ads is you've got to really kind of squish them down. So hopefully what that results in for you is a ramble-free video with loads of cool tips. So there's the beginner stuff, the foundational stuff first, then we're going to come back to me now, here, today, with this brilliant Telecaster, which I can't wait to play. I'm going to share some stuff with you about lead guitar, rhythm and strumming, and also some tips around music theory. Are you struggling to learn the guitar? Right, if you are, I'm going to share with you my very best tip for solving this problem. Now I've taught about over 20,000 hours of one-to-one guitar lessons with real people in the room, in people's living rooms, in their kitchens, going through this stuff, trying to figure it out with them. The number one thing that I see that holds guitar learners back is actually the way they actually address the instrument. It's their posture. It's their actual fundamental technique in how they relate to the instrument. Now don't worry, I know that talking about, you know, posture isn't the most sexy thing in the world. People on the internet want quick tips that will, you know, quick tips and tricks that will solve the problem. But that's not the reality. Yeah, I've done this a lot and I know what the actual reality is. And for a lot of people, it's just their posture that holds them back, the way they address the guitar. If there's errors in your posture, you'll never be able to play the guitar in the way that you want. Nothing matters more than this because this is the foundation for everything else. Okay, here's a quick checklist for perfect guitar posture. Okay, number one, we play the guitar with our whole arm. It's vital that your forearm is clear. Yeah, you don't just play the guitar with your fingertips. We move our arm the whole time. You have to play in a way that your forearm is free to move around. Okay, don't tuck your arm into your midriff like this. Don't rest it on your thigh. Yeah, if you sit on a couch or something, people tend to get really like squished like this. That's not good. You need complete freedom in your forearm. Let me show you an example of how your forearm moves. This might be a bit weird on the camera, but hey, let's give it a try. All right, so if I'm playing a G chord, I just want you to look at my wrist. So forget what's happening with my fingers. If I'm playing a G chord, my wrist is like this. A D chord, it's like this. A C chord, it's like this. Can you see how my wrist is moving around? Yeah, depending on what chord I'm playing, my wrist moves all over the place. But if your hand is like this, tucked into your side, then your wrist can't move. Don't restrict your forearm. It's super, super important. Grab your guitar and play something now and see if your arm is restricted in some way. If it's not, no problem. If it is, this will be a huge breakthrough for you. Okay, quick one. Your elbow needs to be over the ridge line of the guitar. It can't be here. If it's back here, you can't strum properly because your arm is restricted. Bring your elbow over the ridge line of the guitar and then you've got more freedom for your arm to be a pivot. Okay, use the tips of your fingers to play your chords. Don't use the pads of your fingers. Right, if I play an E minor chord, yeah, I want you to see this. If I'm playing an E minor chord, can you see that there's fresh air here? I can actually put my finger through there. Can you see that okay? Yeah, I know the camera's focusing a bit weird, but I think you can see that I'm making a circle there. No, maybe not. Maybe the camera's going a bit too strange. But I hope you could see that my hand isn't coming in at a shallow angle like this. There we go. It's not doing that. It's like this. Yeah, I'm up on the tips of my fingers. You want to play, fret the strings as close to your fingernails as you can without it being painful. Alright, I'm going to show you my fingers. It's always a bit weird seeing some of these fingers on the internet. Looks kind of gross. But I think you can see the lines on my fingers there of like where the guitar strings are actually digging in. Okay, my next tip. Most of the time your thumb should be halfway down the neck on the back of the guitar. So let's try and show you this. Alright, so depending on what chord you're playing, your thumb can move, but most of the time you want it to be round about here. If your thumb is up here like this, what that does is it steals the reach from your fingers. So if you bring your thumb down here, you can move your hand forward more, which gives you more reach as a guitarist. There's a finite distance between the tip of your thumb coming round here to the tip of this finger, and that's your reach as a guitarist. If your thumb comes up the neck too far at the back, then what you've done is you've shortened the reach of your fingers. The solution to this, whenever you feel like you can't reach a chord, the solution is always to lower your thumb on the neck of the guitar. Yeah, always you lower your thumb and move your wrist forwards. Now that will feel really precarious and weird at first. It's the same for everybody. But after a while, you will get used to that feeling, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, my fingers are really long, I can reach where I need to. Now, of course, it takes time to develop the strength and dexterity and accuracy in those fingers, but the starting point is actually giving your fingers, the physical amount of space that they need to be able to reach the notes. So anytime you feel like you can't reach a chord, lower your thumb on the neck, move your wrist forward. Most of your hand can be in front of the guitar neck. This is revolutionary for a lot of people when you're teaching them. Most people think that their hand kind of sits behind the neck and their fingers come around, but that's not the case. Your whole hand can be in front of the neck. Let me show you this in a physical example. If my thumb is up here high, and for lots of people it is, especially if they play something like a C chord, then their thumb is up here. Now watch how high my fingers can reach. Right, I'm really stretching them. That's as high as they can go. Yeah? Look at this distance here. That's as high as they can go. If I lower my thumb and move my wrist forwards, look how much further my fingers can go. Never done this before, it looks a bit weird. But I hope that showed to you, the difference that you get. Those extra couple of inches, it makes all the difference for fretting those difficult chords. Okay, the last tip that I wanted to share with you here is something that most novice guitarists overlook, and that's the thing that you sit on when you play the guitar is super important. This matters a lot because it affects the height of your thigh. Now if you sit on a stool in the kitchen, then your bum might sort of be here. Say this is your backside here, and your legs might sort of lean forward slightly. For most people when they're on a stool, unless they're super tall, the backside goes here, their legs slope this way. What that means is that the guitar slopes away from you when you're playing. So that's not ideal because you feel like you have to chase the instrument and pull it back to your body. And the alternative to that, which is much more common, is somebody sits on a sofa, which is quite padded, and comfy on your backside to feel like you're cozy and on the couch. But what happens is your backside sinks down into the couch and your knees come up. If you can picture somebody sitting down, their knees come up. So what that means is that sometimes the guitar gets really sort of squished into your body and it restricts your movement. What we want is for your backside to be here and for your thighs to be completely flat or sloped up a little bit, just to make the guitar rest and snuggle back onto your body. It feels nice and secure. This is something most people don't even think about. They just sit on whatever they want. Let's say you sit in an armchair to play the guitar. Well, the arms on the armchair will restrict how you can play. It forces your arm to come into your midriff, which we know we don't want a lot of the time. And also it's just restrictive. You feel enclosed as a guitarist. That's not what we want. Your arms need to be completely clear. The best thing in the world to sit on if you're playing the guitar, and you'll see people in the studio will do this when they want to play and they want to get it just right, is they will sit on something like a drummer's stool. It's essentially a stool with no arms where they can get the height just right. Nothing around them, no restrictions. Then the backside is here, the knee is here, the thigh is nice and level. They've got no restrictions around them. Don't mistake this. The thing you sit on is really important when you play. I know I've thrown a lot at you in this video, but there's some really, really good tips here that will make a fundamental difference to the way you play the guitar. And if you're really struggling to learn the guitar, I guarantee one of these tips will be a transformation for you. Are you struggling with basic guitar chords? Let me show you how to fix this problem using a technique which is a cornerstone of our teaching philosophy, and that is stepping stone chords. Stepping stone chords are easy chord shapes that allow you to learn guitar in a much simpler and a much faster way. with a lot less frustration. Most novice guitarists don't realise that you don't have to play difficult chord shapes. You can simply play an easier chord shape from the same chord family. So instead of playing a C chord like this, you can play a C chord like this. Instead of playing a G chord like this, you can play a G chord like this. Instead of playing a D chord like this, you can play a D chord like this. Instead of playing an F chord like this, or like a bar, you can play an F chord like this. Instead of playing a B minor chord like this, you can play a B minor chord like this. There are dozens of stepping stone chords, and I teach them to our students all the time. They're an absolute lifesaver, a time saver, a frustration saver, you name it, they're brilliant. The principle I want you to take from this lesson is, right, okay, I don't have to learn that super hard chord shape. You know, there's an easier version I can use as a stepping stone to get where I want to be. As you're learning stepping stone chords, you'll be improving your finger accuracy and your dexterity, and before long you will be able to play those more difficult chord shapes. With stepping stone chords, you make music more quickly, you have more fun along the way, and this means that you learn faster and with less frustration. Are you struggling to make your guitar chords sound more polished and clean and professional? Let me share a really useful tip with you that will help with this. Every chord you play is made up of a collection of notes, but one of the notes is more important than the others, and that's called the root note. The root note is the hero note, it's the tonal center of the chord. What this means for you is this: when you play a chord, the first note from that chord that we want to hear is the root note. If you do this, then your chords will sound sharp and defined, articulate and musical and interesting. If you don't do this, your chords will sound muddy and indistinct and amateurish. So what you need to do is, on the first beat of any new chord that you play the root note of that chord before any other note. Don't worry, you can find the root note to any chord really easily. It's always the note that's closest to the sixth string that you actually play. Let me show you an example. So if you're playing an A chord, then the first note that you actually play is actually on this string, open, isn't it? The fifth string open. So when you play an A chord, we want to hear this string first when you play an A chord, because that note is A. If you're playing a C chord, the root note is here, it's C. So you better strum that chord so I hear that note first. If you're playing a G chord, the root note is here, it's G. We want to hear that note first. If you're playing a D chord, the first note that you play is actually the D string open, isn't it? When we don't actually have a finger on that string because it's here. We begin here. Okay, if you're playing an F chord, then the first note we want to hear is here on the top, it's F. If you're playing an E chord, the first note we want to hear is the sixth string played open. Okay, if you do that, then your chords are going to sound nice and clean and crisp. Each chord change is clearly delineated. What that does is it makes the chord changes more satisfying. Try it now and don't play the root notes first, and listen to how indistinct and unsatisfying and unmusical it sounds. Okay, so listen to this example and you'll hear exactly what I mean. I'm going to play a simple chord progression here. It's going to go like this: C to G, A minor to F. Okay, now I'm playing the root notes first. Yes, C, G, A minor, F. Okay, now if I don't play the root notes, listen to how rubbish it sounds. Now the chord progression might still be in there. Okay, it sounded a bit like the first version I played, but it definitely wasn't as clean and crisp and clear where one chord began and another one ended. Lots of beginner guitarists don't know this and they don't do this, and that's why their chord changes sound so muddy. Remember, the root note is the hero note. It's the note that defines the chord, not just in the way it sounds, but also literally. The root note of an A chord is the note A. The root note of a B minor chord is B. The root note of a C major 7 chord is C. It's always the first letter of the name of that chord. So remember, for every chord you play, we want to hear the root note first. If you're struggling to learn the notes on the guitar's 6th string, I've got a really helpful practical tip for you which will fix that problem very, very quickly. Right, this is what you need. Some masking tape, I think painter's tape it's called in some parts of the world. I'm going to get a pen and we're going to write on here G, A, B. Yeah? I'm going to tear off this strip that we've just created and I'm going to divide each of these into squares. Okay, so my first one is G and I'm going to put this tape on the neck of my guitar on the 3rd fret. Right, the 3rd fret is the one with the dot, with the first dot there. And I'm going to put this here. Now I've probably done that square a bit too big. Now that's my G. I'm going to do the same on the next dot along, which is on the 5th fret. That's my A. And I'm going to do the same on the 7th fret, which is my B. I'm sure you can see that there. Gab, G, A, B. On the 3rd, 5th and 7th fret. Now, as long as you use masking tape, painter's tape, that won't damage the guitar, won't do any harm to your guitar at all, but it gives you a visual reference so as that whenever you're playing those notes, you can see them there, yeah? You can see them over the top. This is super cool for bar chords because remember, the root notes of this 6th string here, they also dictate the chord that you're playing. So if you're playing a movable E shape here, that chord is G. So that note is G and that chord is G. For here, that note is A and that chord is A and that one is B. So it's brilliant for bar chords, but also it's just very cool for any type of lead guitar. You know, if you want to play something in G minor, then you can just play the minor pentatonic shape beginning there. Yeah? Or the same on A. Play an A minor chord, play something from the A minor pentatonic. It's cool to learn those box patterns of, you know, the different chords and scale there, the different scales that we play, but you need to know where to apply them. Remember, learning the note, you don't need to know every note on the guitar fretboard, you really don't, but you do need to know all of the notes on the 6th string, definitely, and the notes of the 5th string. And if you know those, if you know all the notes on those 2 strings, you're in business. And this tip that I've shared with you today will help you do that, because every time you see that, and before long you will know, you'll learn very quickly. 3rd fret G, 5th fret A, 7th fret B. But having that visual reference there at the start and not overwhelming yourself with anything else. The cool thing about this is where you have the G, A, B, you can quickly work out what's before and after it. So let's say someone says to you, where's there a C note on the 6th string? Well, you might not know the answer to that, but if you remember your G, A, B, 3, 5, 7, you can say, well, I know C comes after B, and if you know B is on the 7th fret, then very quickly you can work out C is on the 8th fret. It's the next one up from there. But the starting point is just getting a foothold in the neck, getting a foothold there, and that's why G, A, B works so well. Are you struggling to learn the notes on the fretboard? Let me share with you a tip that saved me so many hours of frustration when I learned it, and it will work for you too. Okay, this is super cool, you're going to like this. These 2 notes will always sound the same. So I'm going to play here, I'm going to go down 2 strings and along 2 strings. Can you hear how that's a G note and that's a G note? If I play them together, they harmonise perfectly because they're the same note, they're just an octave apart. But the cool thing is this works all the way up the fretboard. Yeah, two A notes, 2 Bs, 2 Cs, 2 Ds, and so on. This is a really cool way of identifying notes around the neck. What's also cool is that it works on the strings below. So if I play here, that's a C note. If I go down 2 strings and along 2 frets, that is also a C note. So C is here and here. Play them together, they harmonise, they're both Cs, they're just an octave apart. So if somebody says like, what's this note here? you may not know what note that is. But if you go down 2 and up 2, then there's a much better chance you will know this note here, which is a D. Remember, as a guitarist, you don't need to learn all of the notes on the fretboard. You really don't. But you do need to learn all of the notes on the 6th string and on the 5th string. And because that's how you play bar chords, man. You've got to know them. If you do know the notes on the 6th string and the 5th string, then you can use that springboard shape I just showed you to work out all of the notes on the 3rd and the 4th string. Very cool. Yeah, we've just erased the need to learn 2 whole strings on the guitar. Very cool. Okay, now for the 1st string, the notes of the 1st string are just the same as the 6th string because both strings are tuned to E. So this is G, this is G. Yeah, G, A, B, C, and so on. Those notes will always be the same because both strings are tuned to E. So we now know that if we know the notes on the 6th string and the 5th string, we can easily, like literally in as long as it takes you to do that with your fingers, you can work out the notes on the 3rd string, the 4th string, and the notes on the 1st string because they're always the same as the 6th string. You see how this is layering up? Okay, the only one that's left is the B string, which is a bit more tricky. So on the B string, we come down 2 and along 3. So let's say you wanted to know what this note was here. Yeah, someone put you on the spot and they're like, what's that note there? And you don't know. Then you come down 3, 1, 2, 3, and then up 2. And we can see that note there. And if you want to, you can keep that springboard shape going and go down 2 and up 2 and say it's F sharp. Down 2, along 2, down 2 and along 3 because we're on the B string. Yeah, so it's a bit more fiddly for that string. You know, it'd be nice if the pattern worked on all of the strings, wouldn't it? But the one that I actually use to work out the notes on the B string faster than that, I don't like going along 3. It just feels a bit weird to me. If I'm on the spot or I've sort of lost my bearings on the fretboard, you know, which happens to everybody sometimes, then I just apply a C shape. So if you play a C chord, this note here and this note here are always the same. So those 2 notes, I'll try and move that finger out of the way. See that? This one and this one, they're always the same. So you can use that anywhere on the fretboard to figure it out. So if someone says, what's that note there? And you're like, I don't know, then you can just play a C shape there. Hear how those notes harmonize? They're 2 octaves apart. But if we know our notes on this string, then we can say that that is an F sharp. C, D, E, F, F sharp. Okay, so I've just shown you, it's actually only 2 shapes, isn't it? It works on all of the strings. 2 shapes that you need to know. 2 strings down, 2 frets along will give you tell you what those notes are. That you can use that on the 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th strings. And for the 5th string, you just use that C shape. I threw a lot at you there, but hopefully it wasn't too complicated. Hopefully it came through okay in the video. Play around with this. It's a super cool way to quickly figure out where you are on the neck. And it saves so much time, you wouldn't believe it. Okay, I thought it'd be fun to just look at some very basic guitar effects so you can hear what they sound like and understand what they do. So I've got a little groove here that I've been kicking around with this brilliant Telecaster. I've got this little groove I've been kicking around in E minor. It goes something like this. Okay, now as you can hear at the moment, it's pretty dry. Yeah, there's no reverb, there's no gain, there's no anything. There's just literally the guitar plugged into the amp, and that's all you can hear. So what happens if we start adding some different elements to this? Okay, now I'm going to begin by adding some gain. Yeah, overdrive, distortion. We're just going to push the signal a bit. So listen to how it changes when the gain comes on. Now. Can you hear how the sound has just started to break up just a little? I haven't put too much on. I don't want it to get fuzzy. I've just driven it a little bit to just make the sound just kind of swell up a bit and just start to break up ever so slightly. Okay, next I'm going to add some compression. Let's hear how that changes things. Now the compression comes on. Okay, now what that's done is it's tightened things up. It's squashed it from the top and it's lifted it from the bottom. The peaks aren't quite as high, but some of those lower notes have come up. So it's made everything a bit tighter. Now I'm going to add some reverb to create some space. I'll play it around once and then activate the reverb pedal so you can hear that. So you can hear how the reverb is created. It's like an echo sound, isn't it? That's what that's created. Now the final effect that I wanted to share with you here is delay. Now delay will kind of repeat the notes again afterwards, and you can control, you know, how long that might be, and they can echo forever essentially. But I'll play it around once and then I'll activate the delay so you can hear that. So you can hear how the delay repeated everything that I was playing there. And the final effect that I wanted to share with you that I have here is a noise gate. Now you can hear we're speaking and the line is relatively quiet. Now usually when the guitar is plugged into an amp, there's some ground hum and the pickups, you know, output a signal, which means there's like a crackle on the line. But I'm using a noise gate, which is a pedal that suppresses that signal. If I turn the noise gate off, you'll hear the line hum. Yeah, so that's how it would sound all throughout this video if I wasn't using the noise gate. But with the noise gate on, it reduces that sound. So that's just a whirlwind tour of some of my favourite effects that I use all the time. Let's hear how they sound in context, yeah? Let's hear how they sound as an overall guitar tone. Let's play that loop. I'm going to turn the reverb off because I don't want the reverb on my when I create the groove, and then we'll just play some lead over the top. Okay, so there's a few different things that were going on there in terms of effects. I just wanted to point out a few things to you what I did in terms of how I played. Just little bonus tips that were here. On this guitar I've got no tremolo system, yeah, there's no whammy bar. So to create that kind of swell effect, what I did there was just play down here. And then I pressed the string behind the nut. You hear how it distorted the tone. Yeah, that's one of the ways that I got that effect there. And then the other thing I wanted to point out with you is how when you know you're going to go high, the notes are going to go super trebly. If you know that's going to happen, then if you choose on your guitar, move down to your neck pickup, then that softens and warms the tone. If I play notes up high and I'm on my treble pick, I'm on my bridge pickup down here, that's going to come through really sharp. When you've got the neck pickup on, it just softens things a little. It feels like a blanket's wrapped around it, you know? It just makes it go a little bit softer. It's always a good idea when you're plotting out any lead guitar phrases that you play to think about what pickup you want to be on. Remember that as the pickup comes the pickup selector comes this way, it's going to get warmer, and as you come down this way, the tone is going to get more shrill and piercing. I'm going to share a quick theory tip with you now, and that is to explain about relative keys. Keys that are relative to one another contain the same notes. So if I play the notes from the C major scale, Those notes are C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. No sharps or flats. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. But if I play the A minor scale, which is the relative key to C major, the notes are A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Can you see how they're the same notes, just played in a different order? It's really weird. They sound totally different to me. It's the same notes. The only difference is where we started playing them. So C major sounds bright, optimistic, happy. A minor has a different feel. Yeah, it's got a minor tonality. Feels a bit more sad, a bit more melancholy, even though the notes are exactly the same. Now every key has a relative minor or major to it. So if the key is G major, the relative minor is E minor. We just looked at C major, the relative minor is A minor. It's really easy to find. You just go down 3 frets. So if you want to know what the relative minor key is to A, yeah, then we just go down 3. 1, 2, 3 to F sharp. So A major has the same notes in it as F sharp minor. Same notes, just played in a different order. Now why does this matter? Okay, it really matters, because from a lead guitar point of view, this is the best news ever, because it means you just need to know one scale, one pattern, and you can play over any key. This is amazing, like unbelievably brilliant news. You can just use a minor pentatonic scale pattern. So if I play it in A here, you can just use that one minor pentatonic scale pattern, and you can play lead guitar over any song in any key. Like, this is the best breakthrough in the history of brilliant guitar breakthroughs. You know, it's going to save you hundreds and hundreds of hours of practice, loads of stress. You don't need to learn loads of different, you know, keys and scales. You just learn one scale pattern. You can play lead guitar over any song. All you need to do is move that pattern around. Now, we're not going to go into that in lots of detail here. This isn't, you know, a lead guitar deep dive. This is just a little nugget of theory that I wanted to share with you, so you know that, okay, every key has a relative key. You find that by just going down 3 frets from major to minor. If it's a minor key, then you have to go the opposite way. If you're trying to work out what the relative major is to a minor key, then you have to go up 3 frets instead of down 3 frets. If you just remember that, the 3 fret rule, and you know how to play the minor pentatonic scale, which is the easiest scale of all that we can play, then you can use that to play lead guitar over any song. Okay, I hope you've picked up some new tips in this video. We've covered a lot of ground here. I really wanted to put a lot of stuff in here that you could get stuck into. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've learned some new things, got some new ideas, made some new connections about how the guitar works. If you've enjoyed this video, you will absolutely love Beginner Guitar Secrets. It's coming around soon. We're excited to get this out there into the world. We've been working on it for a long time. Okay, now it's over to you. I'd love you to write in the comments below what part of this video was the most helpful for you. What are you looking forward to in Beginner Guitar Secrets? Is there one particular area of your guitar playing that you'd like to improve? Give us some feedback, whether it's good or bad. Give us a reaction. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you again soon.